The Legend of Lipan Lake. In the Muara Cayman district, about 120 kilometers upstream from Tangerang, the capital of Kutai Kartanegara Regency in East Kalimantan, there is a well-known area called Lipan Lake. Although called a lake, this area is unlike typical lakes such as Jampang Lake or Semayang Lake, which are filled with water. Instead, Lipan Lake is a vast expanse dominated by shrubs and bushes. In ancient times, the city of Muara Cayman and its surroundings were not as we know them today. This area was once part of a vast ocean. The coastline at that time was at a place known as Barabas, a village now called Muara Caymanulu. This village was better known as Banyualas, which means old land in the local language. Banyualas was a region rich in history and culture, a silent witness to various significant events that occurred in the past. At that time, in the region of Banyualas, there stood a very prosperous kingdom. This kingdom was famous for its bustling port visited by ships from various places. Its strategic location on the coastline made this port a center of trade and cultural interaction. Ships from different lands docked here, bringing goods, stories, and cultures from faraway places. The kingdom was ruled by a wise and respected king. Under his reign, the kingdom experienced a period of glory and prosperity. One of the main attractions of this kingdom was the presence of a very beautiful princess. This princess was known as Princess Air Berdarah Putih. She was given this name because of her peculiar trait. When she chewed betel and swallowed the red-colored juice, it visibly flowed through her throat, giving the impression that white blood was flowing through her body. The beauty and peculiarity of Princess Air Berdarah Putih became the talk of the entire country and even reached distant lands. Many came from various places to see the princess's beauty and uniqueness for themselves. Besides being beautiful, Princess Air Berdarah Putih was also known as a wise and knowledgeable figure, making her even more respected and admired by many. One day, news of the beauty and uniqueness of Princess Air Berdarah Putih reached the ears of a powerful Chinese king. Intrigued and curious, the Chinese king decided to travel to the kingdom of Princess Air Berdarah Putih with a large ship and his troops. After a long journey, they finally docked in the sea in front of Princess Air Berdarah Putih's palace. The Chinese king immediately went ashore with the hope of proposing to the famous princess.
我听过很多关于公主的美丽和习惯，阿吉有白血，今天我带着希望而来，向她求婚并把她带回我的土地。
Before the Chinese king could propose, the princess hosted a feast as a form of respect. However, during the feast, Princess Air Berdarah Putih wanted to test her guest first. Princess Air Berdarah Putih, Chinese king, I appreciate the long journey you have made. Let us dine together before we discuss anything else.
很高兴，公主，非常感谢你的盛情款待。
While preparing to enter the palace with a heart full of hope, the Chinese king imagined the unmatched beauty of Princess Air Berdarah Putih and planned his romantic proposal words. However, behind the seemingly good-natured visit, potential conflict and tension were yet to unfold. Before making his proposal, the Chinese king was treated to a lavish feast by Princess Air Berdarah Putih. They sat together at a table adorned with magnificent palace decorations. But the situation became tense when the Chinese king began eating in an improper manner.
谢谢你的金菜宴会，陛下，您的菜肴很腻。
Princess Air Berdarah Putih watched in disgust as the Chinese king did not use the proper utensils and instead ate in a disrespectful manner, like an animal. How disrespectful this king's behavior is. Although trying to contain her feelings, Princess Air Berdarah Putih could not hide her disgust and disappointment. I apologize, Your Highness. I feel unwell and need to rest for a moment. With a face full of disappointment, Princess Air Berdarah Putih left the table, leaving the Chinese king stiff and shocked. After a moment, she returned to the audience hall with a serious and firm expression. Chinese king, I must speak honestly. I cannot accept your proposal. The Chinese king, surprised by the rejection, tried to find words to convince Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih.
但是陛下，我真的很爱你，想让你开心，请你考虑一下。
However, Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih remains steadfast in her decision. Your actions while eating show a lack of manners and respect. I cannot enter into a relationship with someone who does not respect our culture and customs. I hope you understand. With that rejection, the Chinese king left the palace with a bitter heart and deep shame. Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih, although slightly saddened by the situation, felt relieved to have upheld her dignity and principles. The firm rejection and insult experienced by the Chinese king from Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih made him feel humiliated and burn with anger. With heavy steps and a face filled with disappointment, the Chinese king returned to his ship, filled with a desire to avenge what he considered an undignified rejection. In his grand ship, tension filled the air as the Chinese king prepared to confront the kingdom of Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih with all his might. War commanders and royal advisors gathered around him, awaiting his next orders.
但我们该怎么处理这些？我们要还他们钱吗？
The Chinese king, with a voice full of anger, gave orders to his
我
loyal
们不会
troops.
让这种羞辱逍遥法的，准备进攻白西阿吉公主的王国，竭尽全力，我们会祝福他们。上世界，但是谁在当权？
The loyal soldiers prepared their weapons, ready to carry out the Chinese king's orders. Tension and fear enveloped the ship, but in the hearts of the soldiers, the flames of pride and the desire for revenge burned fiercely. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih, tension and worrying were also in the air. They were aware that the threat from the Chinese king was very real, and preparations for the impending attack were underway. In a state of tension and high anxiety, a great war broke out between the angry Chinese troops and the soldiers of Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih's kingdom, who fought bravely to defend their homeland. The battlefield was filled with the roar of weapons and the cries of soldiers fighting valiantly. The soldiers of Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih, although full of spirit and determination, felt overwhelmed by the relentless attacks of the strong and disciplined Chinese troops. Despite trying their best to defend their positions, they continued to retreat in the face of the unrelenting assault. In the midst of the battle's roar, Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih watched with a heavy heart and deep anger. She felt despair seeing the clear imbalance in this battle. Although she had prepared everything as best as she could, the reality that her soldiers were outnumbered and outmatched made her feel devastated. We must not give up. We must hold our ground until the last drop of blood. Do not let the enemy tread on our homeland easily. Although their hearts were filled with fear and worrying, the kingdom's soldiers of Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih continued to fight with spirit and bravery. They placed their hopes on the princess's leadership and were determined to fight to the end to protect the honor and dignity of their kingdom. In a state of despair and deep anger, Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih sought strength from within herself. Trembling with overflowing emotion, she took a betel leaf and swallowed it with intense anger. If it is true that I am the incarnation of a powerful king, then let my beetle spit become centipedes that can destroy the Chinese king and all his troops. In an instant, an astonishing miracle occurred. The beetle spit expelled by Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih turned into thousands of large centipedes that leapt and attacked the Chinese troops with extraordinary ferocity. The Chinese soldiers, who had been confident in their victory, were now shocked and panicked by this unexpected onslaught of centipedes. They tried to hold their ground, but the centipede attack was so fierce and uncontrollable that they struggled to cope. Amid the battle's roar, Princess Ajid Berdarah Putih watched with satisfaction and relief as the centipedes she had created retaliated against the enemy with equal ferocity. Although her heart was still heavy seeing the bloodshed on the battlefield, she knew this was the only way to protect her homeland and her people from the imminent threat. Despite being shocked by this unexpected attack, the Chinese soldiers tried to defend themselves. However, the strength of the centipedes was so great that it was difficult for them to fight back. In a state of confusion and overwhelming fear, the Chinese soldiers tried their best to fight the fierce onslaught of the centipedes. However, their strength could not match the ferocity and increasing number of centipedes. Chinese king with a trembling voice due to fear.
中国国王的声音因恐惧而颤抖，停止Disappearance。我们必须退出，并在 zone 中寻求庇护。我们无法对抗这种自然的力量。
The Chinese soldiers, who had previously been full of confidence, now had to fight for their own survival. They tried to flee to their ship, seeking protection from the fierce centipedes. However, the centipedes showed no mercy. With their sharp teeth and claws, they attacked with uncontrollable ferocity.
我们得快一点，否则我们会死在无垢手中。
Cries of panic and screams of pain filled the air as the Chinese soldiers struggled to survive. They ran quickly towards their ship, but the centipedes continued to chase them relentlessly. Meanwhile, the Chinese king, who felt devastated by this humiliating defeat, tried hard to save himself.
得快点，我们不能在这里输，我们必须生存。
However, the effort was in vain, as the centipedes continued to attack fiercely. Eventually, the Chinese army and their king were annihilated by the unstoppable centipedes. Their grand ship, which had been a symbol of power and pride, now stood as a silent witness to their destruction. In their final despair and hopelessness, the ship sank into the ocean, taking with it the remnants of their shattered glory and enveloping destruction. In the silence following the deadly battle, a miracle occurred in the kingdom of Princess Air Berdarah Putih. As the sun set and the mist began to envelop the battlefield, Princess Air Berdarah Putih mysteriously disappeared, leaving a void that touched the hearts of all who were present. It is time for me to go. However, remember that true strength does not lie in one person, but in our spirit to protect what we love. But, Your Highness, where will you go? We need you here, in this kingdom. I will always be here, in your hearts and minds. But now, I must follow another calling, and do not worry, the well of brave water will always guard the strength and courage of this kingdom. With a gentle smile, Princess Air Berdarah Putih disappeared magically, leaving her kingdom and people in deep confusion and a sense of loss. In the same place, the well of brave water, the source of the kingdom's strength that had protected them for years, also disappeared without a trace. Its mystical existence added to the mystery behind the strength and bravery that the kingdom had always possessed. We will never forget the services of Princess Air Berdarah Putih and the well of brave water. They are our true heroes, willing to sacrifice themselves to protect us all. In the following days, as the mist began to lift and the sky cleared again, the land around where the Chinese king's ship sank began to form into a vast and beautiful lake. The lake was then known as Lipan Lake, in honor of the events that changed the kingdom's fate and left a legend that would be remembered forever. And that is the Legend of Lipon Lake, which has become a part of East Kalimantan's cultural and historical heritage. Although time continues to pass and much has been forgotten, this story remains alive in the hearts and minds of the people, reminding them of the power of love, bravery, and the miracles that always surround us. May this story continue to inspire and entertain generations to come.